Okay, joining us now is the host of Gamertag Radio, Podcast Hall of Famer, and a longtime friend of the show. It's Danny Pena. Danny, it's so good to have you in the studio, finally, man.
Yeah, finally. The last time was at St. Jude's, right?
St. Jude in Memphis, Tennessee. All right, let's start it off from the very, very top. First and foremost, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and how did you get into podcasting originally?
I've been podcasting now almost 15 years, man. Today actually is the 15th anniversary of the creation of podcasting. So,
wow.
Got to mention that real quick. I started internet radio back in 2001. Huge fan of the Sega Dreamcast. I'm a fan of Phantasy Star Online. So I started internet radio because of that game. Mm-hmm. And then in 2005, I created Gamertag Radio with my brother. First recording, I remember we recorded inside of my dad's car.
Wow.
At late night, because I didn't want to wake him up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But we talked about Halo 2 at that time. Yeah. So I started with that and then slowly started going to like events, E3, and a couple other ones. And that's how our name got out there, man. So
what has the journey been like for Gamertag? And then also, how have you been able to kind of like adjust the podcast, adjust the content with the change in the industry as well?
Yeah, at first, there was no smartphones. There was no podcasts in the platform of like iTunes. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard back then to spread the word about the show. So I had to go to like different retail stores locally in Miami, pass out flyers. And I was telling everybody, yeah, listen to Gamertag Radio, using your PC. And that's how I got the name out there, man. Now it's a lot easier because now everybody has a smartphone. It's a lot easier to get different podcast apps. And now I'm seeing a lot of like the music streaming services now adding podcasts to the platform.
Yeah, today Spotify just added a new functionality with
playlists.
Podcasts as well. Yeah,
exactly. So let's say you're a fan of different podcasts. You want to share that to your friends. You create a playlist of your favorite shows. And that's it, like similar to like music, So now it's a little bit easier now to spread the word about podcasting.
It's just getting easier and easier, but of course it hasn't been that easy the whole time. So talk to us about some of the challenges that you faced with podcasting, right? Because I can expect that there's so many. What's going on behind the scenes?
Behind the scenes, oh man, it was hard to spread the word, like not only to the new listeners, but also the people in the gaming industry. Mm-hmm. Let me see, 2005, I went to E3 for the first time. I went there with my brother. Mm-hmm. And I remember going over there, wasted all my money on a media kit because I was passing out that media kit to every single video game company at that time. They ignored us. So I left. Damn. I left depressed. Not only that, I only had like $20 at that week for E3. So I was eating like dollar burgers with my brother. So that's how we survived. But the year after that, now podcasting was more out there, more mainstream. So it helped us out a lot. But still, we got challenges. Now still to this day, to get like contact with different companies, because now a lot of companies are forgetting about podcasting. Now they're focusing more on the video content, video side. But I feel like audio is super important. We influence a lot of people to buy games just using our voices without showing any video. So.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And it's so unique because it's like you started during an era where like people really weren't doing that. Mm-hmm. You're doing it in your car, the dollar burgers, everything like that. But it all was worth it at the end of the day because you were inducted into the Podcast Hall of Fame. That we have to clap for that one. That is awesome. We gotta clap for that one. Yeah. So what is it like to be in this moment right now where everyone and anyone is trying to make podcasts, get into podcasts, listening to podcasts, and for you to be at the forefront when it comes to gaming podcasts? Like, what is this moment like?
It feels good. I love seeing new podcasters all the time, like creating the show. Aren't you also into podcasting too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good. But I just love that. I love that there's more content creators now. At that time, there was not a lot of competition. It was easier to get a name out there. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's a lot. It's cool to see new shows have like their own unique way to create content. I'm happy about that, man. The challenges were really, really tough back then, but now it's super easy now to create content, so.
It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, and it all started off with Phantasy Star Online, man. That's insane.
Yes, Sega Dreamcast, man. I'm a huge fan of that game. That game completely changed my life. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you something very quick, because I wanted to show you this as a surprise. Ooh. This was my, kids, this is a cassette tape. So this was my first recording of Sega Dreamcast Phantasy Star Online game.
Your very first one?
Because I didn't have
Look at this. Can we get a close-up on this?
Show this very quick.
Look at this.
This
you guys even know what this is.
This is a tape, man.
That's insane.
No, the thing is, at that time I had no digital recorder, so I was using everything, tape recorder, and and also a video camera. I will go and interview like Xbox and Microsoft, Nintendo that were in town in New York City, promoting their consoles at that time.
Right.
So yeah, that's how I did it, man.
That's insane. You carry that with you every event you go
Yeah,
to?
yeah, because this gives me good luck, man.
Yeah.
It's like my good luck charm, man.
It
Every
is.
time I go
It is.
to, like,
Lots
an
of
event.
mementos. All right,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we brought you
definitely.
here today specifically because it's International Podcast Day, and we wanted to
Yes.
show you our appreciation for you and what you do, but also all the podcasts in the world, because as you mentioned, it's easier now than ever to create this content.
There's
really
so many good ones, man.
There's so many good ones. So
Yeah.
talk to us through it, right? What are some of your favorite ones?
All right, so I'm gonna mention a couple ones. What's Good Games is pretty good from Andrea, Brittany, the whole crew. Spawn on Me, awesome. The Show Radio, they're from here too locally, and also one of the ones I'm listening to a lot right now is Mega Dads. Shout out to Adam and John. I was actually on their podcast. I'm not a dad, but I love the way how it's two dads just talking about family and video games, and I like that they're going to a lot of like events to do like there's recorded podcast live in in front of a studio audience. So that's pretty cool.
That's insane
Yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about. Yeah, and it's like, I just can't even believe how much easier it's become as a whole.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at gaming radio, right? Gaming podcast related content specifically, Gamertag Radio is in a class of its own because you guys have been doing it since day one. We have Naughty Nimbus in the chat, that's Aziza from
Yeah.
Dynamic Focus, saying, man, I used to make mixtapes with a tape recorder to the FM radio.
Hey, I used to do the same thing too.
That's
in high school,
wild.
man.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Real school.
super crazy. Like, I'm having a nostalgic moment. We were even just talking about Nintendo 64 and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
when it comes to podcasts, right? Where do we see podcasts influencing or assisting with the growth of content or just the growth of esports in general? Because we're seeing organizations that are developing podcasts. A lot of more people are trying to get into the podcast scene in terms of covering, like, whether it's the FGC or other scenes like that. How will the podcast scene ultimately assist the esports community in terms of growth, but also in terms of bringing more people's attention to the scene and also educating and helping people understand the scene a lot more?
See, one of the things that we do every time we go to in the studio and interview producers and developers, we like to get like behind the scenes, like how is it working on the game? I want to do something like that too with esports players. Like how is it behind the scenes, working with your team, the struggle? Because they're humans too, and a lot of people only see them as athletes, right?
Right.
But I want to see more than that. I want to hear more than just that. So give us a story. I think they're human beings too. And then it's good to learn behind the scenes about what they do. So yeah.
That's the truth, man.
Yeah.
Danny Pena, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah.
Gamertag Radio. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we can't wait to see what's next, what's in store for Mr. Pena.
Yeah, we got big stuff coming up, man.
Woo!
Big stuff. Yeah,
Big stuff.
Yeah,
All right,
big
guys.
stuff coming up.
Thanks so much, man.